Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Welcome to the Ballology app Ultimate Demo. Trusted by leaders in the game. Ballology is a player development platform built for coaches and players alike. You can expect live shot tracking, workout libraries, and AI insights. You can easily chart team shooting drills in practice or in training sessions. Track all of those shots using an iPhone or an Android device in real time. You can view your team's performance through a video archive or by using our shot charts. After every shooting workout, take a look at your breakdown by viewing your percentages and your shot locations. Let's take a deeper look to learn how to make the most out of the Ballology app. Let's see how you measure up in the Ballology Skills Assessment, where you can test your shooting skills versus other shooters worldwide. Navigate to Ballology AI, where you can ask any question to get answers in real time for smarter training.
Make that footwork a little more sharp.
Coaches or players can create custom workouts in just minutes. Hit your on-court skills or basketball IQ or even strength and conditioning. It can be done on the Ballology app. Compete with everything you do on the Ballology app through our workout leaderboards. Elevate your game with the Ballology app. Download it for free today.
I've already enjoyed our talk, but we got into culture a little bit. So diving into that more, the culture that you guys had, and you mentioned earlier about how you kind of fought for it every day and how the players were the ones that were in charge of it, not necessarily just the coaches driving it. But how does culture drive performance?
Man, I love that you got that from what I said as far as the players driving it. It's because, like I said, it was, culture is the little things that we see, the little things that are happening on a daily basis and what you're fighting for on a daily basis. And people define culture a lot of different ways. And I know sometimes it becomes a buzzword, but the way that people describe it is it has to fit their program, right? It has to fit what they're doing. And so it's a bunch of little things, but it's also a shared belief amongst your organization. And a lot of times I think that, as a head coach, I know that I made this mistake when I first came in. I said, this is the way it's going to be. These are our beliefs, and everyone in here is going to follow these beliefs because that's our culture. And that's not necessarily shared beliefs. That's one dictator telling everybody how it's going to be. So if it's a group of coaches, our 3 or 4 coaches in our office, and that we're just going to hammer out, this is what we believe and this is what we're doing, and nobody else buys into that, then we can't really consider those shared beliefs, right? And so what we do is, or what we try to do is allow our players to have input, allow our players to have ownership, because accountability is going to come at the highest level when they actually buy in and they have ownership of what it is we're expecting. Obviously, we have standards. We have to make sure that we continue to hold our kids to standards and hold our kids accountable. If you walk into a practice where it's just standard based, and this is hypothetical. Let's say that this is a hypothetical practice, just standard based. What I would imagine seeing there is a bunch of robots or militaristic style situations going on, where I don't want to lead a bunch of robots to fit into exactly what I want. A bunch of basketball players that are bought in for each other, accountable to each other, and accountable to what it is we want to do. And so our culture, hopefully what our culture is a group of all of us together working towards a common goal, and doing that in ways that we all believe will be successful. And when we believe they'll be successful, that's when the success comes.
And I love that you talked about it being a shared belief. And I know I've been guilty of either going to a clinic or when I was with PGC for a few years. Like my first year at Faith, I had never directed for PGC before. So we had a certain set of values or standards. And then I went to PGC and directed for that summer, and SHAPE. I went as an athlete back in high school, but SHAPE, SCHAP, was what I taught that summer, and I loved it. And so I brought that back and just crammed SHAPE down the throats of our players. And they're good kids, like at Birdville, they're pleasers. And so they went along with it. But it took me a few years to realize, like, I don't know how much that's shared from them. And I like it, but what do they like? What's important to them? How do you go about getting that input and ownership from them that you talked about?
Ownership is a huge part of it, and just having conversations, and we discussed it. You know, you and I were both players, and we understand when we step away from the game. You had mentioned, stepping away from the game allowed you to become a better coach, and I agree with that 100%. Because what that does is, I'm not out there anymore. I'm not the man in the arena. Our guys are. You know what I mean? And so when Trent Bowers comes over to the sideline and says, "Coach, this is what I'm seeing," I better take that as as gospel. I better take that as something that if we have shared beliefs here, then I'm not just going to say, "No, you get out there and do it exactly how I see it. This is what I saw. I can't believe you missed that," or whatever it is, because you're not going to get ownership and buy-in, in my opinion. It's kind of the thing that let's just say you feel like going to a zone, right? And you've been in man, and you have this, as a coach, we all have this instinct to say, okay, it looks like this might be an opportunity to jump into a zone here. Talk with your assistant coaches. They may agree or disagree. And then you go to the team and you say, hey, we're going to jump into zone here. And you look at, we've all had this experience. You look at all 5 faces and they just go flat. And no matter how good the strategy of going to zone was, if they're not bought in and believing in it, then it's not going to be effective. So
Yeah.
no, we're not just, hey guys, what do you want to call this time? What do you guys want to run this time? That's not how we're doing it. That's not what I mean. But it's at a certain level. It's say, hey, are we bought into this? Do we believe this can work? And that comes from trust, and hopefully we've built up some trust with them, that they feel like we're trying to do what's best for them. We're trying to do what's best for our organization, for our team. And it also comes from trust from the work that we all put in. They see us putting in work. We see them putting in work. And then we can go out there, and if we trust each other in those situations, then we say, hey guys, do you feel like if we go into this 1-2-2 right here, that'll mix up what they're doing, and you get some buy-in from it, and then we jump into it and see some success, and now we're rolling because we're all bought in, we all trust each other, we're all playing our rear ends off. It's another way to facilitate confidence in what it is that we're doing.
And so many good things there. And I think it depends probably on the level of play, the age of players, the amount of skin they have in the game. Like, you have some guys that play pretty high level select ball and are playing all year round. They have a lot of miles up and down the floor. And because of those experiences, they probably have a really good perspective on what could work, what their team feels like. They're out, like we talked about before we were recording, we're watching the game, and instead of having players' eyes anymore, we kind of morph into having coaching eyes. But the problem with that is we're not playing, and we don't necessarily see everything that they see. And Coach Garnett, Matt Garnett, said players have to do what they see. But I love the idea of you checking in with them or asking them what they think. And there's a couple things with that. Like, one, early on, I think as a younger coach, I might have looked at doing that as, what if they feel like I don't know what I'm doing? And basically, it's an insecurity. I need to project this confidence that I have all the answers and I'm never wrong. And asking them, hey, how do you feel about that? To me, what it does, you want to have players be co-creators of the culture. Man, that really brings them in. But it has to show a level of confidence and security in who we are as coaches. And then the second thing is, like, why ask the question? If you got to know your team. If you sense there's hesitancy or there's a change or a shift in their body language, I would, hey, Trent, like, what do you think? Do you feel something different? And then there has to be follow through there, because if you ask for their opinion, but you don't, and they know that you don't really value it, that you're not really listening to it, you never allow their decisions to actually be made, you always shoot it down. There's going to come a point where they just don't ask, or they just do. And like, they're those robots, like you said. So I don't know what point it gets. And maybe some people naturally have that. But it was a big shift for me. I think maybe gaining more experience, becoming an older coach, where I did start to listen to my players and not view it as weakness in me, but as us together, all of the stakeholders in this trying to make it work.
And I think just like to kind of go back to what you said, it kind of depends on the level and it depends on the kids. And those are our responsibilities as the leaders to feel that out and understand that this team might be a little different than the next team. If I'm coaching our freshman guys, we don't just pull them together and say, hey, what do we feel about doing right here? That's going to be a little bit more structure. It's going to be a little bit more, hey, we got to make sure that we got this basic stuff down before but Trent's been on the varsity since he was a freshman. Avery and Sawyer have been on the varsity and DJ had been on the varsity since they were sophomores.
Yeah.
And so we've built up a rapport and they've built up some credibility to where, hey, we're all working as one unit. Obviously they've shown, hopefully, well, I'm not going to say hopefully, they have, because they deserve for me to say that. They've built up a respect for me that, as we're going through this, when coach says, okay, this is what we're doing, let's go do it, right? But he allows us, and I hope they feel this way, that I allow them to have input, and their input matters to me because I want to be bought in together. And I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. And I think you're spot on. That maybe early on the insecurity was, hey, we're doing it my way, and let me show you how much I know. As opposed to, hey, what are you guys seeing? Let's make sure that we're doing the best thing for what we have going right now. For where our energy is, where our body language is, what our matchups are, all those things. And it's a shared belief, which is the definition of culture. A bunch of shared beliefs that make up an organization.
If anybody is just terrified to try that, ask their opinions, or if there is a player that suggests something and actually going with it. I mean, one, like, what's the worst that's going to happen is that possession, it doesn't work. And then you can just go back to it, to what you're doing before. But I don't know if you felt this way. I think, like, take skill work. The more that you individually work with players, treat them all as playmakers, give them courage to shoot open shots. Man, I've been pleasantly surprised by what players do in games. Like, they usually don't prove me wrong. They prove me right in what they're doing. But the suggestions that players have given me over the years, man, so many times I'm just so thankful that I went with them. And then if there ever is a time of a disagreement, or, I think the way that you respond to it, I'm thinking right now of a college coach this past March Madness that, man, there is a clip caught of him responding to his assistant coach. And maybe, I don't know, if you're reading lips, it looks like he told him to shut up.
Hurley. That's Hurley.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't going to say
you didn't
his
have
name.
to say it. I'll say it. I don't know if you're
That's
not
right.
allowed.
I can say it, yeah. I mean, there's so much greatness with him, but then, like, that was just, you saw that and you're like, oh, wow. Great reminder, not just players, but also our assistant coaches listening to what they have to say and really valuing it. And I'll give a shout out to Coach D, my varsity assistant from this year, and he's been with me for a while. We were about to play Grace Prep for the second time. Really athletic team in our district. They just have great players, a great coach in Josh Duke. And we had been at their place about 3 weeks before, playing fast with them or trying to do it, and we lost by 16. So, okay, are we just going to double down on that and just try to play faster and try to make up that gap? But they may have some horses that are a little bit better. And he had the idea, like, on the defensive end, if we're in our zone, which I want to give you credit for that here in a little bit, but if we're in our zone or if we're in man, we're going to pack it in and make their possessions a little bit harder and be in those gaps a little bit more. And we won by 3. I wouldn't have done that. I would have doubled down on speed. I would have gone D'Antoni land. Oh, that didn't work. We're just going to shoot more. Oh, they're scoring on us. We're going to play faster. But thankfully, I had an assistant that was like, Coach, this is what I think we need to do. All to say, instead of how we respond to our assistants and how we respond to our players when they give suggestions, can lead to culture strengthening, or it can really break it down.
100%. And we're cut from the same cloth. I'm doubling down on running it and upping the possessions, firing a few more. No, but it creates extreme ownership for everyone in the organization. Like, if I'm up there saying, this is what we're doing, here's the scouting report, exactly how I want it to play out, here's the plays that we're going to be running, here's the script of the game. Not only is that obviously creating robots. I don't want to coach robots. I want to coach basketball players, but it's also not allowing anyone except myself to have ownership, right? And so then if there is correction necessary, if there is a situation where we need to step in and say, hey, well, let's talk about that decision. Well, the coach, that's what you told me to do, right? And so it's the same thing with the assistant coaches. We allow ourselves to have ownership over the entire product if we all have input, right? And not just one person kind of dictating that. I'm absolutely blessed with the assistant coaches we have. 2 former head coaches, Coach Hudak and Coach Tippett. Coach Tippett was head coach at Carrollton Creekview, and his last year there, they went 3 rounds deep. He's been an incredible coach at a lot of different places, but a head coach at Joshua for a few years. And man, those guys, I would just be absolutely dumb to not listen to the input they have. We would not be where we're at if it wasn't for those guys. And so those guys are blessings that I would want in our office. When we sit down in our office, this isn't I don't mean for this to sound like I'm tooting my own horn. I promise you I'm not. It's not a
Just
me
so
sitting
humble.
in there.
I'm
This
the
is how
most
things are
humble
going.
person in the world.
If I haven't told you how humble I am yet, let me tell you. No, I don't sit in the office and tell them exactly how it's going to go all the time. It's like, hey, let's sit in the office. Let's all be head coaches here and figure it out. And I feel like that created ownership. That was passed down from Coach Fitch. Coach Fitch would allow me to have as much input as I possibly could. So he invited it, and the ownership grew there. Not just that it was as important to me, the wins and losses and the overall growth of the program as it was to him. And I hope that that's what we're instilling with our other assistants right now, is that we all have equal input, so we all have equal ownership. And when when it rolls downhill, that's coming to me, and I'll take it, and I want to take it because that's my job. That's my responsibility. You're never going to hear me say that it was somebody else's fault.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.